Hello, welcome to your Best Health Summit. It is day 17. It's almost over. But before we go, we have the last two probably saved the best for last. So we have Teri Horn today, and she is going to talk about truth and joy. And who doesn't want to talk about truth and joy, right? I mean, well, the truth part might be a little harsh, but the joy part we love. So I'm going to let Teri introduce herself because she knows a lot more of her story than I do. So Teri, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Christina.
Yeah, I'm excited. She comes all the way from British Columbia to join us. She lives on an island, don't we? Aren't a few of us jealous, right? So tell us a little bit about your story and what you do and how you got there.
Okay, so a little bit about my story. Oh, I am hearing an echo again.
Oh, no.
That's okay. Maybe it's gone. Oh, I think it's gone.
Yeah.
So my story about, I guess it was in about end of 2007. I had finished most of my coaching courses. I am a life coach. And I was just getting my business started, and I was in a new relationship and found out I was pregnant. Whoa, yay. And oh my goodness. And a week later, I found out I had breast cancer. So I was told to have the treatment I needed. It was an aggressive cancer. I had to terminate my pregnancy. And I was also told that I would probably go into menopause or be infertile after I had all the treatment. So I was at a big crossroads of what to do. And I told them no. And they created a panel of doctors to try and help find a different way to go about this. But I miscarried just a couple weeks later. So a little bit of a blessing in disguise. I didn't have to make that decision. And I went through all my treatment and finished on what would have been my due date, did my last radiation. And this was January 6th of 2009. And on Valentine's Day, you go through cancer treatment, you're not feeling all that great, I tell you. But, Valentine's Day, all right, it's Valentine's Day. I give it up on Valentine's Day. And I got pregnant. Yeah, and to everyone's complete surprise, I was told I'd be about 2 years before they found out if I could have kids, but It was 5 weeks. And I have a healthy daughter who is now 6.
Wow.
And through all that, about 6 months after she was born, I found out I was BRCA1 positive, which means I have a genetic mutation. I'm predisposed to breast cancer and ovarian cancer. So I opted to have tubes and ovaries removed and a double mastectomy. And so I've done all that. At 36, I was in full-on menopause. And then right around the same time, 3 of my very close family members all passed away. Really my whole family, my Nana, my dad, and my dad's brother. They all passed away within less than a year of each other. And I was left in a real major life fog. Just motherhood alone was a life fog.
Sure, and then add all that other stuff on top. My goodness.
Yeah. So in the last couple years, probably a year and a half, 2 years, I've sort of emerged from the fog. Don't know if you know what that's like when you kind of come out of this time of your life and you look around and you go, oh my gosh, whose life is this? My life? Oh, I really felt lost and found all at the same time. And I knew that I wanted to get back into coaching. I had a very different viewpoint on life now. A lot of things had shifted, and I had become a much more fierce coach because I really I really learned a lot and was given basically a message of really living the life that you really want to live. And don't waste time. Don't waste your life with who you are tucked away like it's a dirty secret. And for some reason, we do that. And so I stepped back into the coaching world now that there's social media. There wasn't when I started. There wasn't really. It was minor. And now I am a life coach, and I coach women who want to be living a life that looks more like their life.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think that so often there's so many women that don't really know what they want their lives to be because they've just settled into what it is. You know, I was mentioning this yesterday. You know, I was trying to settle into working for a corporate company, a really good company. I mean, really good company. Just I didn't enjoy what I was doing. And I would shame myself for not just appreciating what I had. You know what I mean? I had a nice, you know, decent paying job, got a good paycheck. I once did the college thing, you know, so how comes I'm not happy, you know, and that's when a lot of my perception changed for me. And that's when the clouds started lifting, was when I started going, hold on, maybe I don't have to do this. You know, and it was a brand new idea to me because I had just, you know, for all my life, I heard you go to college, you get a paycheck and you're happy. You know, you work until you retire and that's it.
That should be enough. Yeah. And so we beat ourselves up about it because everything looks good. I mean, from the outside, everything's good. So why do I feel this way? And
yeah,
it's just not satisfying. And I think a lot of, well, we're talking mainly women here. That's who I coach. Go through a long period of time of just unhappiness. And you can't quite put your finger on what it is. And we take, you know, we say yes to things. Like I'll use my own former marriage as an example. And in that time, I was happy. I said, that's what I wanted. I moved into that marriage. I took on all those roles, but then things changed and things shifted, and it no longer fit me anymore. I no longer fit it. And this is where we're talking about like your health and living your truth. Part of what happens there is that you start feeling like you're holding on to a secret because you've gained an awareness about your life. Sometimes you even don't know exactly what it is yet. Then there's those times when you know, like, I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. And you carry it around because you don't want to put it out there. You don't want to say the truth because you don't want to hurt someone. You don't want to hurt yourself. The ego gets in there and says, well, we don't want to be made wrong. You said yes. So, and fear and ego and everything combined. And then we walk around the world stressed. We can't be fully ourselves because to be ourselves, we can't live the life we're living. It has to change. So we tuck ourselves away. We feel all that anxiety and it becomes our regular thing. We just go through life that way. And we know the effects of stress, anxiety. Even I was sort of looking at, I've looked at kind of the science of it before as well. I mean, things like holding on to a secret, which is really what we're doing. It's kind of like holding on to our secret. Is it affects a certain part of the brain that its main function is learning. So we hold on to this secret, and it's like the part of the brain gets all bunged up, like it can't continue on with its function because it's got all these stress hormones going on, And it's busy doing that instead of carrying on with what it needs to do and what is important. So it starts to affect things like how we learn, our memory, and of course it affects our relationships. It affects our weight. We lose our appetite or we gain our appetite. And I don't think that we really put as much emphasis on our thoughts when it comes to our health. I think we're starting to. Things are changing, but we tend to be very focused on our body. What do I need to do for my body health? But there's our mind health, our spiritual health. That's where my focus is.
Exactly. Yeah, I love how you said all of that, because it is, you know, holding that secret, and it could be as simple as, you know, when people ask me how I'm doing and I tell them I'm fine, even though I feel like I'm about to break down in tears, you know, that's like holding a secret. I'm lying to you because I don't want you to know what's really going on inside, because it's like Brene Brown said, if you knew, you know, if you knew who I really was, then you wouldn't like me. And that's what we fear. You know what I mean? That's what our fear tells us. If you knew what was really going on, you wouldn't want to hear it. And that's true in some spots. I mean, in some places, like you go to work, not everybody there wants to hear your sob story, you know, but it's finding a safe place to be able to get that out, whether that's a coach or a support group or just your journal if you need to. I mean, but you need to get all of that stuff out. And I think when we're feeling, I mean, I know that when we're feeling depression and anxiety, that those are telling us other things are wrong, you know, like we try to, and it's just like you said, you know, when we are worried about our physical appearance, we can't just focus on the body. Well, just like that, you know, when we're in a depression or anxiety, we can't just focus on, you know, that one piece. It all kind of
everything is so connected.
Yes, it's so connected that you still have to take care of the mind and the body and your emotions and your spirit. Like, I look at those as like 4 completely different things that you need to make sure that you're, you know, gelling back together, you know, in a clean way.
Yeah, they all lead into each other. It's kind of like the body gives you hints about your thoughts.
Yeah.
And I even read something about, I can't remember her name right now, Lisa Rankin, maybe? And one thing, she's a former doctor. And one thing she says is you either grow or you grow a tumor. And I was like, oi, ouch.
That's a good one. I'm going to write that one down.
And it's like that. Our things manifest within our body. And, you know, there's reasons why it's hard to live our truth. And that comes in my life over and over. I'm an unschooling mom. So my daughter is homeschooled, but we have chosen to unschool her. And not everybody really knows what that is, but it's a form of homeschooling.
Yeah. Is that where you allow them to kind of explore and, you know, see what interests them and really dig deep?
Yes. And there's no curriculum at all. I don't follow a curriculum at all. It's child-led, and we allow life and the process of living to be her teacher. And she requests things, and it's my job to help facilitate that by, you know, taking her where she needs to go or finding the person she needs to be in front of to help her learn something. Or, but that, I'm a former teacher.
That's neat.
I used to teach middle school, grades 6 to 9. And, you know, it's kind of like just telling my family that I didn't want to be a teacher was difficult. You know, they supported me financially and emotionally, and it took me a long time to get my degree because I kept stopping and starting. And, you know, to tell my grandfather, who was so proud of me, that to tell my truth, that teaching, I can't do it. It's not me. It's like hurting me to do it. It just goes against everything. And to try and express that truth was very difficult. I remember sitting across from him at the dining room table. I went over specifically to talk to him about that. And it's so difficult to say our truth sometimes, partially because we feel like we've been lying when we haven't. It's just that it's changed. And then it's like we have this regret and shame and blame ourselves for not being able to say it out loud sooner, or we get all this judgment, and then that makes it worse because we're stressed out about, you know, the fact that we know we need to say something out loud, and that feeling of knowing you need to say something and how that feels in your body. And, you know, we've all been there, I think, like even like ending a relationship, how hard that can be. And it manifests in your body, and we make it worse and worse and worse. We can't sleep. Then you wake up and you're tired, and then you're grouchy. And it just is like this big snowball effect. And part of what we're talking about today is joy. So where does joy come into all of this? And for me, joy was one of the biggest things that helped me find those answers to, well, what do I even want? Or who am I now? So that's where I started, was joy.
Oh, cool. Well, I have a good example of this. So in my first marriage, I had a child. So I left my husband, and I don't want to go into the details of why, but it was very difficult, you know, and it wasn't just difficult to have that conversation with him. It was difficult for me to make that decision, to be honest with myself that I am not going to be happy here. And this, you know, I can't do this. And I'll tell you, we separated for a year, and then after a year, I tried it again because I have a little kid, and, you know, wouldn't it be great if I could just suck it up and just, you know, because that's a good one that I got from my childhood, is suck it up, honey, you know. So, and I felt so terrible that I couldn't be this ideal mom that I thought that my son should have, that could just deal with this. But when I finally started asking myself the truth, like, it wasn't even just about my unhappiness. What really broke it for me was, do I want my son seeing that you have to be miserable to be with somebody, and that's the right thing, you know? Or is this the choice I would want him to make in 30 years or whatever, you know? And it wasn't, you know. I don't want him to stay somewhere where he's miserable and because he fears what, you know, all the what ifs in the future, you know. Like, that's where I think we really get stuck, and why so many times we don't do anything is because we forget that we can, because the fear has blocked it so much that we don't even see that option anymore. It doesn't even exist. You know, until one day somebody says something and says, hey, do you know what brings you joy? And or asks you questions like that. I forget. Oh, like I was saying in the beginning of the summit, like one of my one counselor asked me, you know, how does it feel to be in your body? And I'm like, what? About, like, feels like it does. I'm in my 30s, you know, like, there's some aches, I'll be fine. And no. How does it feel, really, you know, to be centered in your body? What feelings are you feeling? And that took me a while to actually figure all that out, because I hadn't paid attention to any of that stuff. So excitement and fear and, you know, joy kind of all felt the same to me. So I needed to start defining, you know, well, what am I really excited about that I might just have a little bit of fear, or what is that fear? And I had to start asking myself all those questions. And I'm with you, Teri. I enjoy the joy spectrum much more than I appreciate the truth spectrum. And my friend Judy's giving me hearts because I sit in circle with her. So we do, you know, we look at our truth really deep, dark, and ugly. And And I'm not a huge fan of it, but I show up all the time because I know that when I leave, I feel better than I did when I got there. And I've seen a little bit more of myself. I'm able to accept a little bit more of myself, means I have more self-compassion. I also have more compassion for other people because then I remember everybody else is human and flawed like me. You know, so I think looking at our truth is so essential to being able to grow. You know, we can't make any changes unless we know who we are already.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like unburdening yourself. It's like the more you dig and you find it out, because a lot of the times, like I said, you don't even know. Like, we don't know what we don't know. And it's just there. It's like sitting in there somewhere. And we don't, why do I feel this way? Why do I have this pit in my stomach all the time, or the block in my throat, or why do I feel so heavy around my shoulders all the time? We start to tune into it and recognize that there's layers upon layers of stuff built up in there. And as you start pulling it apart and pulling it out, I say it like it's like a backpack. We like put on a backpack, and sometimes we put it on when we are around people, or we get into a situations, you know, going to see family or that kind of thing. And we put
uncomfortable areas. Yeah.
Put on the backpack full of burdens and untruths that we don't want anyone to know. So we put it on, and it's heavy, and it literally weighs us down. And as you start to unpack it, it becomes lighter, and you can stand up, and you can, oh, I can breathe. And it is a literal unburdening as you start to recognize what your truth is and then start living it. And that clarity breeds confidence. That when you start to know, oh, this is why I've been so unhappy, because I'm totally going against about what's actually important to me. I'm trying to live this, you know, I'm trying to steer myself over here, but who I am is over here. And when you start doing more of this and getting your life more in line with this, it becomes lighter and freer, and it feels good. And part of trying to access that for me has been really looking all the way back to my childhood and noticing the things that used to bring me joy when I was younger. Like, I could draw for hours. That's what I would do. I would draw for hours and hours and hours. I used to be in a choir. My dad would take me on hikes, and we'd go out in nature. My grandfather would take me for hikes, and he'd teach me all about the plants that we'd see, and just things like that. It's a place to start when you're feeling lost. What did you love to do? And even up into when I was about 18 is when I moved out of my house and in with my boyfriend, who became my husband. And once I moved out, I took on all these roles of wife and homemaker, all of those roles of a grown-up, a mature woman. And that brought in all of my beliefs about what that means and what that meant. And I let go of who I was. I let go of that playful, spontaneous, goofy, naive part of myself that was beautiful. I let go of it because it just couldn't live there. It couldn't live in that marriage. It couldn't live with me. I wouldn't let that part of myself be there. So it's like we have all these beliefs, I mean, limiting beliefs, and we take them all on, and then we wonder why we're so lost. We one day wake up and we're just like, I don't even know whose life this is. Because it's definitely not mine. Why am I so unhappy? Because I don't do any of the things that bring me joy anymore. I do none of them. Zero. And it's just a process. It's like you take on more responsibility. You've got kids, and you've got a house and a job, and you just kind of go through the motions for a while until you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And one day it's like, none of this feels right. And what do I do now? And there's a big fear in that, because does it mean I have to change everything?
Oh, the C word.
Yeah. And then we stop, because it's like, well, I don't want to have to leave. Do I have to leave my marriage to be myself? Do I have to sell this house because it doesn't feel right to me? Do I have to change everything in my life? And we like overshoot it. We like
Mhm.
go to this like wee place way over here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I get where a lot of my clients are. They've had this realization, and they think, oh my gosh, I'm going to get on, this call with this coach, and she's going to tell me that I have to change everything.
Oh, right. Yeah, I get that too. A lot of fear around that. I'm not ready to focus. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm not asking you to put a full-time job into this. Like, this is just making little changes. I mean, if we could all just, boom, I'll just get it done overnight right quick, that'd be really great. But that's not how we do it. But I mean, that's so true that and I think we get into that black and white thinking, you know what I mean? Like, well, if I'm not happy being married, then I must need to be single. Or if I'm not happy in this house, I must have to sell it and leave. And we don't think that there could be tweaks to what we already have. Now, is that challenging? Yes, it's challenging for somebody like me, who's an independent woman, to say, okay, I'm going to need to work with somebody on this. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what it takes with relationships. You have to hope that they're wanting the same things as you, and that they're going to hear you in love, and in connection, and not in taking offense to it or whatever. So.
Yeah. And I mean, just in that, being able to, like, when you're in a relationship, to be able to tell someone, just to be able to say, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
That's scary to say and scary to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And, trying to find your way back or to a new place. It's an evolutionary process. Like, it's like kind of like coming clean. It's this layered process of discovering who you are, what you want, and your why, your big why of why do I even want all of this? What? Mm-hmm. And it's important once it is, because I mean, I was 25 years old going through life like, la la la, everything's great. And 25 hit, and it was like, oh my gosh, what happened? I'm 41. But I remember that moment of knowing that there was more out there. It was like this period, I call it my quarter life crisis. Mm. And I know that a lot of women actually echo that around 25 years old. It's like this awakening. Yeah. And it's really exciting, mm-hmm. but it's really scary.
Yeah. No, I think mine was more like 27 to 29 was like where, 25 is probably where I started getting interested in other like ways of thinking and stuff. But because my marriage had me so sidetracked, I didn't really start thinking. I don't think anybody should marry until they're in their 30s. If they expect it to last, because I don't think that anybody even really knows or even begins to know who they are until they're 30. Like, I think we're just growing in hormones, and like we're still adjusting to our bodies. And how can you know like what you stand for or what your why is until you're 25, 30 years old? Like, yeah, you're still just learning.
even we change so much. Like, the core of us stays the same. Like, I honestly still feel like I'm a teenager. I say that to I have a 13-year-old stepdaughter. I say, I don't really feel that different. I'll keep waiting for it to happen, but I still feel the same inside.
It's sure.
how I see the world changes and how the world looks changes. And yeah, you kind of, you kind of get to a place of like, I don't really know when it'll stop, because it's a constant process. It's like, I think I'm here, I'm here, and then give me a couple months and I'm over here now. You know, it doesn't really stop. And when you're in a relationship, you hope that you're both going to be doing those things together. And that it's like a partnership, and you support each other in as you go along the path and in your process. And sometimes you're together and sometimes you're not. And I mean, I've been with my partner for 8 years, and we always say we're happily unmarried. And
whatever works is, I mean, if you're finding joy and it's working for you too, then that's fantastic. I mean, that's all that matters to me.
And that's my thing about, we're all just making it up as we go.
Yes.
Like, just because that's how things were done before us, or even because that's how we did them, that doesn't mean that's how we have to keep doing them. If you're going to take the time to really get to know yourself and what works for you and what you value, what your values are, then you can start to actually create your life so that it looks like yours.
Yeah.
And instead of just doing things because that's what people do.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. I said, not this specifically, but I said, like, one of my favorite quotes are like, we're creations, not discoveries. Because I think so often we try to rediscover, like, I love how you pointed to go to your past to look for what caused you joy. I mean, those are great things to look for. But don't try to become the person who was unhappy before. Like, that's not going to work. We want to create it. So if you've never had joy before, you want to create that for yourself, or, you know, whatever feelings it is that you really want to feel. You need to find a way to create that. And we can, because we're humans and we're creators. That's how we are.
We're like creators and innovators. That's kind of how I always, you know, I say that life is like I'm just trying to think of how I was saying it. It's really just an experience. Like, we're here to experience things and to play, to experiment with it. So it's kind of like an experienced experiment. Life, you know, but we get so like strangly on things, you know, like it's
sure, because we want to control it. I think a lot of times, you know, we want to make sure that it is as we see it. And it's like, I learned, like, I got a lot of my freedom when I started letting go of outcomes. Like, that's when I started getting my freedom. Like, even now, you know, I still can get stressed about things, but it's like, you know, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and stressing about it is just going to create an analysis paralysis in me where I'm like stuck and not doing anything, and that's not useful. So if I just keep moving, like, you know, just keep moving, do the next thing. That's all you have to worry about. And, you know, and then there sometimes becomes a space for me to do bigger planning, but not when I'm in that space of analysis paralysis and trying to control things, you know. That doesn't work for me.
No, and I think we've sort of been, you know, we're taught to do the opposite of what really needs to happen when we get in that space. You know, talking to people about joy, which I've been doing for a while, is that a lot of people have actually a lot of blocks about enjoying life. And, you know, what if I really enjoy my job? Well, I've learned all my life that you're supposed to work hard, and going to work is not a fun thing. You got to work hard, and
if you're laughing, you're not being productive.
Exactly. So, and that's really the opposite. If you're someone like me, and I think like you, a creative person. We all are creative people. And if you are trying to tap into that, especially for your job, worry and stress and trying to work hard is like the creative killer. But we don't allow ourselves to disengage from it. It's like we think it's going to give us the answer. And, you know, I've spent many sleepless nights laying in bed worrying about a solution, trying to figure it out, trying to figure it out.
And how many times does that work?
Yeah, exactly. And the solution that I do come up with is not a good solution. So even whatever brilliant idea you come up with at 2:30, after, you know, spending the last 2-3 hours worrying yourself about it, the solution you're going to come up with is not a good one. You need to shut the mind off, whatever, however you do that. Meditation has started to work for me in a sense of, my meditation is, okay, I say to myself, stop. Just stop. And I'll keep going back, stop. Oh, but my brain, stop. And then I close my eyes and I focus on the darkness, the breath. And that's where I keep trying to get back to. And then I fall asleep like that. And just turning it off, that's been a big step. But putting yourself in a situation that you love, like for me, it's walking down to the beach. Okay, I have a problem. I have something I need to solve. I would like a solution to this problem, or you know, whatever it may be. Well, I'll go to the beach, or you know, go do something with my daughter, or paint. Yeah.
I walk my dog. We go down by the little river down there, and so I'm not completely landlocked. I do have rivers around. But yeah, we go, and just something about being in nature really helps me like reground. And then I still may not be able to think about it when I come back, but this is where it comes back to like really feeling what's in your body. Is when I get back, if I still have that knot in my stomach, or, you know, the burning in my chest or whatever, I know that this is not the time or the space for me to think about this problem. So can I worry about something else, or can I work on something else and come back to it? Or, you know, do I need a longer break, or should I go paint and be creative so that, you know, because a lot of times when I'm doing that, I come up with solutions.
Yeah,
I come up with solutions everywhere, but like right in front of where.
In the shower. I tend to get a lot of my ideas in the shower. And there's like, there's like a little pad of paper you can buy to stick in your shower that has a proper.
Yeah, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, and somebody suggested we write it on the door. I think it was in the summit. We write it on the door, and you know what? I did it. And even though like I couldn't read it when I was done, but because I had taken the time out to write it, I remembered the damn idea.
Whoa. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so just a little tip, you might want to write on the door.
You know, a little side note to that, that's how my daughter learned her alphabet.
Oh yeah?
Was being in the shower, and I would put the letter on the door in the foggy steam shower, and then she would trace over it.
Oh, neat.
And that's how she learned her alphabet.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, well, see, it works. Make notes for yourself in the shower. They don't have to last. You'll remember them.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's really where I come from now as a coach, and really where my focus is helping women, and even helping. And helping is a word that I have a little bit of a.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, no, it's not the word. It's.
Yeah. I like supporting.
Supporting. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Women in, there's kind of, it's like a twofold. You're uncovering things, but at the same time you're creating. They're kind of coming together.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about looking at what's there or being there. Those things lend themselves to kind of like what's next. And they're a place to go when you're lost.
Mm-hmm.
What did you used to enjoy? Or, you know, where was it in your life that things all of a sudden changed? You know, dig your past. I don't want to dig up the past. It doesn't really serve.
Yeah, but there's things that we need to resolve sometimes, or
Yeah.
accept, or, you know, be able to get past. If they're blocking us, then we need to look at them. Yeah, absolutely.
Forgiveness is usually a good a good place to start there. I've learned with blocks.
And
Forgiveness.
forgiveness for ourselves a lot too. I mean, that's a huge piece, because that's where all of our shame comes from not being able to look at that and go, this is okay. You know, this is okay.
Yeah, and I think it's even more for ourselves than, you know, forgiving others or situations is one part, but really it just comes back to us.
Right.
Because the thing, whatever has happened a long time ago, but we've carried it around, and it's become this, like, usually they take on a life of their own.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's forgiving within ourselves. But the past does hold hints to where we're going and what we're missing, because that tends to be, life can, like I said, life can look great on the outside. You can have everything.
Yeah.
You check off all those boxes, but it doesn't really matter if you still feel empty or like you're missing something.
Absolutely. And, you know, in my women's organization, have you ever heard of Women Within?
I have. Why have I heard of that?
I don't know. Womenwithin.org, though. You should look it up. Because that's a phenomenal international women's organization. And there we do, like, you know, experiential weekends and like emotional training, I guess you would call it. I don't know what to call it, but personal growth, you know, that's what we do. So when we do like work on the weekends, or even in our circles, like our you know, thoughts, our processes kind of revolve around 4 questions. And I know maybe I'm not supposed to give out these secrets, but they're not really secrets. I'm sure everybody uses them. But first, like there's like 4 steps into making the change, right? Into figuring out what your truth is. And the first is like what we're describing here, where like, you know, something's wrong, you know, like even though it's good on paper, something doesn't feel right. And that's your trigger to know that there's something that needs work right here, right? So now we know our work. Well, what do you want it to look like? You know, like if you could recreate your life and you didn't have this problem, what would your life look like? And then that's where we kind of do the creating, and we start thinking about joy and, you know, how we really want to feel. And then it's like, okay, so what's blocking you from, you know, this state to this state? What's blocking you? And then, you know, we talk about all of that, or sometimes there's processes with it and stuff. And then we talk about, okay, now you put your big girl pants on and you do the work, you know, like then you have to start looking at that stuff. And we use a metaphor of like diving deep into the ocean and getting our gold from the bottom of that murky grossness at the bottom. But that's, you know, that's how we find our joy. And the thing is, like, especially like in our shame, I always think of it as a ball of like wrapped around our core, you know, our very pure core. And then there's all this shame and guilt and garbage around it that we build up, limiting beliefs. All of that garbage is all here. So what we think we should be as a mother or a wife, or, you know, and we're not happy, it's all there. And where was I going? Shame. So yeah, going down and getting that gold is like peeling those layers of shame off and really looking at them and going, you know, is this stuff true about me? Or is this stuff that I just believe because somebody else has given it to me? Or, you know, I just thought that's the way it was. You know, in my house, there was a right way and a wrong way to everything. And if it wasn't right, it was definitely wrong. So, I mean, and that's where you know, we start limiting our beliefs. We start limiting the possibilities that we can see for our lives instead of really opening those things. And what's sad about that is even when we do things and we, you know, we work, if we don't get that thing in the exact package that we were planning on or expecting, forget it. We're not, you know, we don't see the other opportunities that are out there. So it's really about letting go, and just, for me, it's about letting go and seeing, just being and letting these things come to me. I don't panic about a bunch of things anymore. I just kind of go, okay, well, I'm going to do the next thing and we'll see what happens, you know?
And I like the word, like, I love the word curiosity, and going through life in that way, like, being curious about what is coming, and where am I going? Because I used to think I knew,
Yeah.
and you know, there's this other plan going on somewhere. And as much as I might have my own plan, it's rare that I ever get to where I'm going on the plan that I made.
Yeah, without making a detour.
Yeah, like, yeah, major detours sometimes. And to learn to go with the flow, and to not just go with the flow, to not just be like, oh, well, I'm along for the ride, to be curious about that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, oh, we're going over here. Oh, I wonder what's going on over here. That changed a lot for me. I realized that I was naturally curious. I mean, we all are, but to kind of like give that more life, that curiosity, changed a lot for me. It took a lot of the pressure off things. And you know, that's bringing in that playful aspect of who we are, and that childlike wonder of what's going on. And it helps to be around kids. Like, you know, I have, my daughter's 6, and that is a good reminder constantly of what it's like to move forward in the world without thinking you have any of the answers.
Or not planning any of it, or not expecting anything. I think that's, you know, we pretend like we make these plans so that we can be in control, you know, and that's really what it comes down to, so that we can be in control of what happens. And the thing is, I mean, just like you're saying, kids are the greatest because they do no planning. They just walk into whatever is handed to them, you know, and they just take it, you know, they just take it however they need to, and they move on instead of all of the worry and the, you know, I'm not saying that preparation doesn't help. It absolutely does.
Yeah.
But
there's a place for all that, definitely.
Yeah, but to expect that we can control everything, I mean, just all the planning in the world isn't going to guarantee that everything's going to be okay. You know, it just, anything can happen. And that's really where we need to be prepared for. You know, we need to be prepared that anything can happen. And this is going to look in one of a million ways, and that's okay, you know, and I'll be able to get through that, because I think sometimes we just have so much fear, and we don't even know what we're scared of, or like what the worst situation is. You know, I had a counselor that said, either, you know, don't go down the what if train, but if you are, go all the way and see how bad it can get, because you'll see it's not that bad. Like, there's somebody always has it worse, and they get through it, you know, and so we can all get through it. We just have to know that.
Yeah, and I think that it's like a false sense of security anyways. Like,
yes,
it all up. And we relax into that. Okay, well, I got it all planned out. Okay.
And then mad when it doesn't
damn, what happened there?
I know. And I'm like, me as a perfectionist, like, or a reformed perfectionist, I would say, you know, like, oh my God, how could I not have seen that thing? And it could be like the most minor, ridiculous thing. I do it when I forget something at the store, like, oh my God, how could I do that? I mean, these are silly things. These are not a big deal. And we just go straight to like, oh, I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. There's value in just letting go of a lot of that and making our plan, setting our goal, and being curious about how it's all going to play out.
Yeah. And making ourselves happy first, I think, is something that's important. You know, like we always worry about, oh, well, if I do this, how will that person feel? Or what will they think of me? And that doesn't matter. Like, keep yourself happy first, you know, as long as you're not hurting anybody or yourself, like, keep yourself happy and let them think whatever they're going to think. That's about them. Let them say whatever they're going to say. That reflects them, not you.
Yeah, and I think that comes with age. I mean, some people have that, you know, there are some people that just have that, but for me, that's definitely something that has evolved as I've gotten older.
Yeah, me too.
Start to just, you recognize that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I can't please you and you and you and you and you and you and me. So I'm not going to try and please any of you.
Because there's really only one person I can please.
Yeah. Yeah. And once I learned this stuff, like the stuff that I've learned through coaching, that, you know, that there actually is a way to do that. Like, you know, once you know that you I kind of call it like your unique blueprint in the world. There is an actual, you know, process of this, if these needs are met, if I am honoring these parts of myself, the rest of my life really does feel different. Like, and it really is better. And when I'm, you know, talking about vibrations, our own vibration, when I'm vibrating at a frequency of joy and being playful and feeling happy and curious, and that frequency literally brings different things to me. I am, you know, and I never understood that. But be around someone that is joyful and playful and like just loving life.
Yeah.
And their life may not look like, you know, what we have in the checklist. But they could care less. Having a blast. It's good. And that feels good to be around.
Yeah. And,
you know, when we can get there more often, the people that find that feels good, you know, connecting with different people, different experiences, opportunities, all those things start coming to us. The ones that are in line with who we are. Yeah. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That's why I love talking about joy, and I love supporting women in getting connected to that part of themselves, that playful, spontaneous, adventurous, joyful part that we tuck away.
Yeah.
Because the rest of life it's like a natural thing that happens. It all starts to shift.
And what's so wonderful is like you really model that by unschooling your child, if you ask me, because you are letting her listen to her inner voice, which so many of us were told, you know, be quiet. It's not time to talk. It's, you know, this is what you're learning right now. It doesn't matter if you want to or not. And like, we don't make any choices for ourselves. So we don't really learn to listen to our inner voice and what makes us happy. We learn how to follow rules and how to follow what other people expect of us and what the cultural norms are and all of those traditional things, where you're teaching your daughter, you know, if you're curious about this thing, let's go freaking find out about it. Let's go find an expert and let's go, you know, let's go ask them about it. Because let's face it, experts, I mean, we love to talk. People love to talk about what they know about, you know? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, just in our family alone, like, it gives us a whole different experience with our family. Like, she goes to Nana because Nana knits, you know, like, well, I want to learn how to knit. Oh, well, Nana, go to Nana. You know, like, as she wants to know about different things, you put her in front of the people that are passionate about it.
Yeah.
And that passion breeds passion.
Yeah.
you know? And rather than someone sitting there like, oh, okay, how to knit, I have no idea. Well, part of that we'll discover our own, you know. Thank you, YouTube. There is part of that.
True.
Yeah.
But it makes a difference. If you don't, I mean, teachers in school, it's kind of hard to be passionate because often the textbooks change, the curriculum changes, and like they have to teach this one solid curriculum, right?
Oh, yes, I know.
That's just like solid all the time. And it's like, it doesn't matter if the kids are interested.
Yeah. Oh, you've frozen. Well, hopefully you'll come back. I don't know if I'm frozen.
In there or not.
Am I frozen too? Okay. Okay. Let's wait for her to come back. It says she's still on there. Yeah, you are. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So you can still hear me okay? Okay, cool. Yeah, we unschool. It means that she won't graduate with, you know, the regular graduation, which is what stumps people up a lot. Oh.